Welcome, everyone, to another exciting and informative episode of HypnoTalk. I'm Troy Parkins, and I am here with
Janna Troy, your friendly hypnotherapist.
And again, I love your studio. I said that last week. I'll say this again. Your studio is amazing.
We'll see how long it lasts when the weather starts to warm up if I can stand it out here. But right now, springtime, it's so nice. If the birds get too loud, just let me know, and I'll tell them to knock it off.
You remember those old 70s sitcoms that had the canned laughter?
Yeah.
Some may think that we're piping in, sounds of wildlife and things like that, but let me assure you, it is truly authentic.
It actually is authentic. Yeah, I've got sparrows, and then I have a pet chicken over there, and yeah.
And
Angelico gets in on the deal.
Yes, Angelico, who I just met.
Yes.
Is a fabulous. What type of dog is that?
He's a Cabochon, and so he's half Cavalier King Charles Spaniel and half Bichon Frise, which means
quite a pedigree that guy has.
Yeah, he's a hound. He's a spaniel, so he has no. He doesn't come when he's called. He's very friendly. When he was young, he was like a circus dog, and he'd run around on his hind legs and jump really high and stuff like a Bichon. But he doesn't shed. He's just really sweet. He's the most loving little guy ever.
Well, maybe one day I'll have to interview him, because somebody who is in the circus, you got to have some stories, right?
He's got to have,
lots of stories. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a topic. I've gotten lots of interest around this. And see, I'm wearing this jacket. It's sort of greenish in tint.
Yeah.
And I think of this term, people who get green with jealousy. And jealousy being the key word of what we're going to talk about today. You did a short discussion on it. But yes, jealousy.
Yeah, there's that song, "Hey, jealousy." Yeah. I think
Gin Blossoms. Gin Blossoms, 1993. I love that song.
That's right. It was the Gin Blossoms. It's been bugging me for a week.
That was when I was still collecting new bands and new songs in the 90s. So yes, I love it. So yes, jealousy.
Yeah.
There are many different, situations that jealousy arises. Most common that I get the questions on is in relationships, and people, I want to move off that trait or whatever. So let's just talk about that. Let's just talk about jealousy in terms of relationships. I know you brought up there's jealousy, kind of in the envious way, where you see someone working out at the gym and you go, wow, I wish I had that person's body, or, but let's talk about jealousy as it pertains to relationships.
Yeah.
So what can we, or how can we approach it if, say, these feelings come up? I mean, obviously it's human, but if it's not serving your relationship, what would you say regarding jealousy?
Well, I say for most of us, and we have to be really brutally honest and look in the mirror, there is a wonderful advantage to noticing things like patterns for you. So if you were in a relationship when you were 14 and something went wrong and you felt a lot of jealousy then, and then later when you were 22, you were in a relationship and everything was fine, and then there was jealousy, and then you met some person and you thought they were great, but they were looking at other people and there was jealousy, and we start to notice that jealousy comes up. It may be lying dormant, but there are people, believe it or not, who never have an issue with jealousy at all, regardless of the behavior of the other person. So I'm not talking about whether somebody's trustworthy, not trustworthy. I'm talking about some of us have a reactive pattern of jealousy. And uncovering the reactive pattern is really, really important. that is very distinct from what my clients come in asking me, which is that person, is he or she trustworthy? They want to know, what do I do? Should I be worried? How come I'm so suspicious? And they'll want me to read the text messages. Now, when we start to want to analyze text messages, we're in the external environment, and the mind, when it's feeling this cocktail of horrible, terrible, jealous feelings, and God only, I remember those days of dealing with that myself many moons ago. Arguably the worst freaking feeling you can have. It's a shit ass feeling, okay? It is the worst. And the mind will say, as soon as I know if I can trust him, then I'll be okay. And that's true until the next day, when he doesn't text you, or he's not paying attention to you, or he's distracted, or he's late.
Or he gets a text message. Oh no, who's that?
Now the question of, are they cheating? Are they not cheating? And I'm taking this jealousy thing to an extreme. It may not, I'm using cheating as an example. Okay. But it could be anything. You could be jealous of their sibling or their mother because they're spending more time with somebody else, or they're closer to that friend over there because that friend, they feel more comfortable talking to that friend than they are talking to me. That's a big one. So it may not necessarily have to be with a cheating scenario, or it could be a neighbor of mine many years ago she was just drop dead gorgeous and dressed just beautifully every single day. Well, turns out she was in her head, she was in competition with the women that her husband worked with. That is not a fun reason to look good. That is a terrible, horrible, frightened, fear-based reason to look good. Now, when we look at others, we say, we have to, this is where the big leap of faith comes, where we want to stop this horrible feeling and we want to know what to do. We have to put, what am I going to do about it, on the back burner, which is the hardest part, because we're in the middle of feeling really upset. So the mind wants to glom on to, what do I do? How do I fix this? Do I trust him? Do I not trust him? What am I going to say? What should I text back? Okay, the mind wants that. Do not, I repeat to you, I'm going to stare into your beady little eyes right now. Do not take action when you're feeling that way. It's like a heroin addict that wants another hit. And it feels like that. Now I know why people tweak when they're on meth. They're like, because
they're looking for their...
they're sort of kind of listening to you, you know, and they kind of want to hear what you have to say, and but they just really kind of need the meth.
Yeah.
And that's how people act when they're jealous. They're like, I just got to know what to do about this shit. As soon as I get that phone call and I know everything's okay, then I can relax. Well,
so the phone call is like their fix, you're saying. That's like their fix.
It's the fix. And then people will think it's about the person, because after all, maybe they are a cheater. This isn't about if they are or if they aren't. If you, yes, you are in a relationship with someone who is cheating, it's an energetic match to the insecurity that you experience on a daily basis, that may show up as a neediness, a demanding nature, an expectation of wanting that person to be your be all and end all, wanting them to make everything in your life okay, and to be on the receiving end of that sucks ass. Okay? It brings out the other person's,
good point.
the cheater. It brings out their feelings of inadequacy because they can't please you. They're never going to be able to reassure you enough. They're going to say, yeah, you're hot. I love you. And it doesn't go in because it's a function of insecurity. Jealousy is always a function of insecurity.
So let's delve into that one. That the root of this is insecurity, and it moves into that what you mentioned as the reactive pattern.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to what you just said, though, and this is where people who believe in science and people who believe in law of attraction will meet on this point that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So you said where it shows up, this insecurity or this jealousy shows up in a way of being. So the person who's exhibiting these feelings of jealousy may be demanding or needy, or you didn't say this, but I can imagine they suffocate their partner.
Yes,
and their
that's
partner,
what I meant to say. Yes.
Yeah, well, and then there's a lot of burden to that. If you can't, in your, in your thinking, you can't make this person happy or trust you, that becomes then a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then they start looking perhaps for other people. So in the science world, that's called, right?
Or they're just pissed. It's like if someone feels, if the other person, let's say the other person feels inadequate or like they're not good enough, and all you do all day is go, do you love me? How come you don't act the way you used to act? How come you're withdrawing from me? Do you love me? And the other person is like, yeah, I love you. I did this and I listened to you. Don't listen to me. You're constantly telling that other person, you're not good enough. The way you're acting toward me isn't good enough. And you're right, it's not, because the person doesn't even want to be around you. You're right. You get to be right about their behavior. Yes, they're aloof. Perhaps they're wanting to get away from you. Perhaps they don't want to come home at the end of the day. Who would? Because it triggers their feeling of I'm not good enough.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about let's talk about both sides.
Okay.
So first, let's talk about the root of this jealousy, and you mentioned insecurity. So let's talk through that.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about insecurity by talking about its opposite, which is ultra secure. So this is going to sound arrogant and stuck up, but I swear to you, if you would have seen me in 1976 and how insecure I was, the fact that I overcame that should give all of us hope. Okay. And it wasn't overnight. But if I feel secure, which I do, and somebody cheats on me, I'm not going to go, what's wrong with me? I'm going to be very concerned about that person. It's like, do they have cognitive impairment? Do they have Alzheimer's? Are they having a midlife crisis? I wonder what's going on for that person. And I'm going to be concerned. Now, I'm not going to take it personally and go, what's wrong with me? Okay. And it's not contingent upon my weight, whether I look good that day or not, how many times I have sex with them. It doesn't have to do with any of that. I am who I am. I look the way I look. I have sex the number of times I want to, and no more. If they don't like that and they need more and they go off, then I'm going to go, wow, I guess they want sex with someone else. And if I love them, then I go, wow, they are better off. We're not compatible here. They're better off with that other person, or if that's the way they want to roll. I mean, not everybody is cut out for monogamy either, and that's not bad. It's just not particularly what I personally want, but I'm not going to look at myself and go, what's wrong with me? It doesn't mean I'm not going to look at myself, but if I'm secure I don't take things personally.
And that would also serve you in the next relationship. Let's say the person wanted to have an open relationship and you didn't, and you say, okay, well, we'll go our separate ways. By you not taking it personally, then there's no residual effect on your new relationship, I would say.
That's right. It's most of the times people are on their best behavior at the beginning of the relationship, and there's a physiological, I learned this in hypnotherapy college, there's like a physiological 6-month window, and if it's a long distance relationship it can go up to 18 months. But there's a physiological thing that your brain does that makes that other person very attractive and incredibly exciting, and we suppress all the things about them that might be red flags later until that initial thing wears off. The initial, oh my God, it's like it is a high. It's a chemical high. And once that wears off, then there's going to be a real finding out of, do I love you? Do I not love you? And when we love someone, we don't want to run. Most of the jealousy comes from an attachment, an unhealthy obsession with someone that people mistake for love because they're trying to get what they didn't get growing up. They're wanting the nurturing or the attention or the validation that they perhaps missed out on. So when they feel these intense feelings, they say, oh, that's my soulmate. And they think that because the feelings are so freaking intense. But it's obsession. And once that 6-month period wears off, you got to ask yourself, do I respect this person? Is this person someone that moves me to beautiful tears just because of the way they look at the world? Is this someone that I'm proud of who they are? And notice I'm not saying it the other way around. I'm not saying, do they see me this way? When I'm feeling secure, I'm the one that's assessing that person. Do I enjoy their company? Do I respect their values? Do I have common things that I enjoy doing with that person? And a lot of times with people, the answer is no, they have nothing in common because they got together to get that person to validate them. There was something about that other person that they needed, that person filled for them because it was the first 6 months of chemical attraction. And the funny thing is, when that person finally is so overwhelmed that they're out of that relationship, or maybe they never wanted to be all that monogamous in the first place, which is also fine, and they're out the door, and they're hard to get now, and they're detached, and they're trying to punish you because they're not going to buy into your needy behavior because they did that before and they reassured you, and then it became a never-ending thing that you do, and they're stopping it, and then you're going, well, you used to love me, but you don't love me now. Then we start to call them a narcissist. Guess who's the narcissist, guys? You are. Because you're attracted to someone for what they're giving you, for what you're expecting from them.
You said that, yes, you said that very beautifully. And I kept thinking in my head, you used an analogy previously, the fix. It's if you're with a person to make you feel better, then that's the fix. The fix is in. So you said that very beautifully.
Yeah.
And that goes to, we have a question.
Oh,
and
boy.
We have a question, and this kind of
nicer when
plays,
it's not a general statement.
This kind of plays into what you just said, and what we're talking about. And this is coming from I guess it's the perspective of a person with a person who exhibits jealousy and insecurity.
Okay.
The question is, I get the reinforcement and providing security by giving compliments, but after about 1,000 times and 1,000 compliments, when is enough enough? I get frustrated. Is there something wrong with me?
That's what everybody says. Is there something wrong with me? And the answer to that is not attainable. You could go to the best couples counselor in the world, and whose fault is it? Which one has the problem? Not, those questions aren't the right questions. They lead us in that dead end place. We want to start to notice, how am I feeling? So when you're wanting to know what's wrong with you, start to ask yourself, how do I feel? And it sounds kind of exhausted, kind of like pressure. And we can be honest about our feelings. We can say, whenever you and I have these conversations, I walk away feeling a lot of pressure. Now, we're not saying you made me, you put pressure on me. You're just telling my internal experiences. I feel overwhelmed. I feel inadequate. I feel like there's pressure. I feel that I'm not believed. I feel like my compliments haven't been good enough. My love hasn't been satisfying enough. My reassurances haven't stuck to you. And then we want to also notice that water seeks its own level. And this is something that I see, and I've experienced it in my own life, that the insecurities, although the behaviors may exhibit very differently, of the one partner is exactly the same as of the other partner. Now, they don't show up that way. My second marriage, if you looked at my second husband, you wouldn't see anything other than a very well-spoken, loving, and incredibly powerful and successful man who has confidence oozing out of every pore in many, many, many topics of his life, who's been successful in ways that most people would never, ever be able to achieve, who's talented in ways that most people don't understand, who has family relationships with his family of origin and siblings that are the envy of anybody. And then there was me, and back when we got married, I had insecurities that were miles deep. I wasn't confident in any of the ways that he was. So he was very attractive to me because he was the puzzle piece that went like this, and I was the puzzle piece that, like we were the opposite. We were one. We had people tend to attract the one that has what they don't, but we don't look at our partner as insecure. We look at ourselves as insecure because we're the ones in our own bodies feeling it. But his whole success in life, a lot of it was driven by a deep feeling of inadequacy. And I knew that, but I didn't get it. And when whatever he was providing for me did not emotionally satisfy me, it satisfied my needs to go shopping, but it wasn't emotionally satisfying. What came up for him was a feeling of not good enough, which sounds like your question. When is the reassurance enough? And we have to realize that the only way to shift things to the positive is not to reassure the partner as the goal, but to work on our own insecurities as the goal. My ex-husband retreated and punished me by being emotionally unavailable. And the whole reason I married him was because he was the most emotionally available man I had ever met. So we went from he was emotionally available to he was not. He was so filled with whatever he was doing wasn't good enough for me, that it pissed him off. And I started to become, whether he realized it or not, he was traveling more. He was, had more to do. He's on the phone more. The connection we had wasn't very, there was more fighting. Now, I'm not saying that everything was 100% my fault. Looking at whose fault it was, what isn't helpful. The only thing that helps me now is to look at, I didn't give him a break. I expected all of my reassurance to come from him. Now, if I listed the reasons I divorced him and his list of faults, we'd be here for a very long time, but that doesn't help me. What helps me is to go, what could our marriage have looked like if I would have felt secure? Well, we don't know that because I didn't. But, and we may not have even met. We may not have even had any chemistry, because it could have been our mutual insecurities brought us together for the purpose of learning those life lessons. But the last thing I want to do now is put a bunch of emotional neediness onto anyone else, because I watched his hair turn gray. And after everything, after the dust is settled, and of course we're close now, friends, we're good friends, I started to look at I was looking for someone to really help me feel better, and he did a lot of the time. You know, it's like we do get that heroin fix, don't we? When somebody is sexual enough, when they're reassuring enough, when they're putting arms around you enough, you do feel better. And we want that then all the time. But it doesn't solve the problem. We want to be able to love them unconditionally, and that's what we say we want. So if that person wants to go play golf a lot, and maybe they're a person of few words, and they're not comfortable saying I love you a lot, but we know that they love us, and we know we're lovable, and we're not going to make that a thing. We're not going to take that personally. Now we're unconditionally allowing and loving them exactly who they are. And that's important whether you stay with them or not. I swear to you, that's why I'm close to every ex I've ever had, like really close, because now there's no need for them to fill my cup. And I can look and go, what a spectacular human being that person is. And really respect and admire them. The trick is, can you do that in the relationship too?
Aha. So moving to that. So great answer to that question. And thank you for submitting the question. And if anybody else has more questions, just jump into the chat down there or DM me. And that brings us to this, what you just said. It's one thing. Okay, that's great. You can one can put themselves in the shoes of the person who is jealous or the person who is with a jealous person. What's the secret sauce to being able to move on those things while in a relationship? Not after the fact, but while in a relationship.
It's establishing boundaries, healthy boundaries, which requires that you don't go survey your friends. Okay. Oh, should I have this boundary? No, those are your friends' boundaries. They're not yours. Look at yourself. What will you tolerate in terms of behavior, and what will you not tolerate? And then you love yourself enough to take a stand about that. You do not go through their phone. You do not hire a private detective, as tempting as that is. You trust that things will work themselves out in the way that they're meant to work out. So it could be that someone is cheating, and you may never know that, and that's fine. if you have a boundary against cheating, and you love yourself enough to say, hey, and this is for people who, I saw something on TV where somebody was calling their spouse at work 20 times a day. And the spouse said, I love you, but I'm going to put a boundary that you do not call me at work. That's a healthy boundary. So you decide, in order for me to function at work, I need to do my work now. Okay. In order for me to be open and vulnerable with you, I need our relationship to be monogamous. Now that's not true for everybody. There are polyamorous people out there, but there's an agreement about that, you guys. It's not about right, wrong, good, or bad. So you have your healthy boundary, and that's communicated. When the other person hears that and they agree to it, now we don't have to worry about that anymore.
It seems simple. But very good that you point that out.
Because what we're doing, and I do this in hypnosis, because where is this feeling of security going to come from if it's not coming from my heroin fix over there called my partner? This is where I like to do therapeutic imagery, and this is where I use the hypnotherapy. There's a line from Grey's Anatomy where the Sandra Oh character, I can't remember, Christina, it's one of the earlier seasons when Christina was in there, and she and Meredith are talking, and one of them says to the other, I can't even remember, he's not the son, you are. We want to pull the plug out. It's like we're a sea lamprey, and they latch on and they suck the life out of their person. We want to pull our little sea lamprey clamp off of our partner and put it into our own self-realization that we're all we need. A feeling of security is there. It's just that we don't believe it's there. Now, that's a weird one. This is where there's a lot longer conversations to be had. The
Totally.
Sustaining feelings of security that are at the root of giving up jealousy are through a self-realization, and people like that because you've met them. There's people who are secure alone. There are people who aren't suspicious. There are people who the idea of checking their mate's phone records, it would never even occur to them. And it has nothing to do with the behavior of their mate. It has everything to do with they're whole and complete in their relationship. They're comfortable. They're with their partner because they really enjoy that person's company. Period. In fact, they enjoy that person's company so much that it makes them be attracted to that person. And that person isn't even a 10. That person might be a 4 or a 6. But they're so attractive because the person likes them.
And to them, they're a 10.
Yeah.
So, hey.
Yeah.
True that.
I get so tangential. You got to reel me in a little bit.
No. You've been on point. You've been on point the whole time.
Me?
This shows though what you just said. We are at the tip of the iceberg with this discussion, and I know that this could be a few more in a series of jealousy and to really dissect it from both sides, and to then talk about how does hypnotherapy work with this. How does, the therapeutic imagery, what tools can we put into place? And this is my style.
Okay, another hypnotherapist, and I'm not putting anybody down. Hypnotherapy has traditionally been a behavior modification modality, which means someone might, for example, come in and say, I'm feeling really jealous. And the hypnotherapist goes, sleep. And they're like, and then the hypnotherapist says, you won't be jealous anymore. Every time that feeling of jealousy comes up, the harder you try to feel jealous, the more difficult it becomes. And you'll find that you're not jealous any longer, blah, 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 blah. That's behavior modification.
And myth busting, because it's not just like you can't just do that.
It's not sustainable
you can't just
if it's a reaction.
snap.
pattern. It's not sustainable until we get that the goal is, and this is before we're in hypnosis, we get that the goal is to pull our hooks out of the person. That's not loving to put your hooks in somebody. Okay. Now our goal becomes, I feel really fucking insecure. I want to be comfortable, and I want that comfort to come from not the person, not an external source. Gee, Janna says that we're born secure and it's just beliefs that we're not. I don't know if I buy that, but if there's some way that I could feel comfortable and secure and okay now, regardless of what that asshole is or isn't doing, then I'm down. And now I've got him. Now we can go into hypnosis, and their goal isn't to figure out what's up with that dude. The goal is now, I'm open to the possibility that I could be free of this feeling of jealousy permanently, and I don't even have to know what's going on over there. Now, when we become more secure, two things happen. We elicit better behavior out of people without even trying to. Because that person over there, like our wonderful person who asked the question was talking about how much reassurance is enough. We're not asking for fucking reassurance every 2 seconds. They're going to start to go, damn, you look good today. But it's coming up from their toes. It's coming up from a very authentic place. They're just
not that they have to remember, not that they're tying strings around their fingers to make compliments.
Yeah, not like they're not going to get any later unless they tell you how great looking you are. You know, that's all. That stuff is we want to be over that, right?
Sure.
And we want to be over being, the other thing we get over is being attracted to somebody who we think will fix us, complete us, or raise our stock price. Do you see what I mean? Like, oh, if that person over there who's admired, if that rock star over there is into me, that means I'm special. So I'm going to go fall madly in love with, who do we fall in love with? It's an obsession. Yeah, we want to, that's why women at rock concerts rip their clothes off. I heard an interview with Joe Walsh the other day that as he would get in the car after an Eagles concert, chicks would lift up their shirts and press their naked boobs against the windshield of the car.
Wow.
Well, I guarantee you those chicks had not met Joe Walsh before, and he may or may not even be a nice person. I don't know. That's an obsession. But any one of them, if he would have talked to them, they would have gone, I love you. Well, do they? No.
And I could say, and flipping that around.
Oh, you're with Joe Walsh.
Yeah.
Why did I use Joe Walsh? Like, talk about, like, and if Law of Attraction, Joe Walsh ever heard this, I love you, Joe Walsh, I'd be the first on the windshield. Like, seriously, like, I'm not over it to that degree. But it's not love, is it? It's that feeling of, oh my God, this really cool person, or this really smart person, or this really rich person, or this really good looking person, or this really popular person is into me. That's not love.
Well, maybe one day we can have him on the show and see what he has to say about that. But you bring up a very good point. What I was going to say also, as you're saying that with how women would react to a rock star, you could kind of see this on the other side too, with how guys react with like a Victoria's Secret model. They're like, oh my God, I want to be with her. I love her. Mm-hmm. It's a woman on a piece of paper. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Like, what is... Yeah, so I see exactly what you're saying from the male perspective. I see that you expressed from the female perspective.
I sound like an uppity know-it-all, but I dated a soap opera actor for 6 years.
That's super cool.
It wasn't. You think I wasn't jealous? We'd be out to dinner and women would mob him asking for his autograph. And I'd be sitting there in my sweats and I'd be like, note to self, don't wear sweats in public anymore, Janna. Maybe you could put some makeup on for a change. I felt like this. And he bent over backwards for me. He bent over backwards to reassure me. he bent over backwards to include me. Sometimes he was so handsome that sometimes I would look at him and think, I can't even find words to speak to you right now. I mean, it was just like,
wow. Now don't tell us, but now we get to speculate which daytime soap opera star that was. So here's a challenge for you viewers.
This was a long time ago. You would have had to watch CBS in the 80s.
Oh, I bet. Hey, I bet there's a lot of our viewers that, hey, all those soaps, General Hospital, Young and the Restless, Guiding Light, which was my mom's favorite, Guiding Light.
Yeah.
So,
but he was just as insecure as I was. It just didn't show with all that charisma. With all that charisma and a heart as big as I've ever known, the patience, the kindness, the sweetness, the understanding, the insecurity was a match to mine. Okay. And there was attachment there. And my jealousy it didn't come up very often, even with him. But when it did come up, it was about my insecurity. Okay. It was an I'm not good enough conversation. I can't measure up to this. And his insecurity, I won't share his insecurities because they're personal to him, but they were massive. And I hurt for anyone who's ever had any level of fame, because we all know logically they're no different from you or I, but they're no different from you or I. Like you need to get that. Like, it's not, the grass isn't greener over there. And talk about 1 minute your mom, when you're getting external validation, and then you're not, and you're the same you.
So you could even say people who are in the spotlight, it's even tougher.
It's way worse.
Because everything's under a microscope and it gets bigger.
They get all these kudos for, oh, I just love you. I think you're the most wonderful thing in the world. You're so amazing. Sign my boob. I didn't know boob signing was a thing until that relationship.
Wow. Okay.
Sign my boob.
I had no idea either.
And then something happens, and you find that you're walking down the street, nobody recognizes you any longer. And from my position, having never been famous, okay, people do not run up to me on the street, and say, hey, you look interesting. Don't I know you from somewhere?
I saw you on HypnoTalk. Can I have your autograph?
On HypnoTalk. I saw you have 32 subscribers. I'm impressed. I think that you and I should do some autograph signing work here. No, it doesn't happen to me. So I don't give a fuck if I'm out in public and nobody says, can I have your autograph? But if you used to make money for your studio as a contract actor, and they would send you out to sign autographs for promotional purposes because you made the studio money just by smiling and being okay. And maybe you were in a profession where you were vulnerable because vulnerability made you a better actor. It's like being naked in public and all of a sudden they don't like you anymore. How to unplug from all the public. We're talking about unplugging from our partner. What about taking that sea lamprey suction thing off of the public? Where do we plug it in? How do we determine our worth? Our worth used to be associated with our talent and our ability. How come people think I'm not talented anymore?
And that one is a tough one because that is a whole nother one of self-worth. And it could be a job. It could be, as you're saying, right? The guy's job was that, and he was getting all this excitement out of it. But then if say the job goes south, does that define him?
Yeah.
Well,
and what about when a person was born very good looking, or born with a tremendous musical talent, or born with something, and then you age and your voice goes and you gain a bunch of weight? And that's I was listening to a John Denver song today, of all things, and I remembered back in junior high school, my friend and I used to listen. Oh my God, we were going to marry John Denver. And then John Denver
Rocky
got
Mountain
hokey. Nobody listened to John
High.
Denver anymore. That was like, so that was,
John
and
Denver
then
got hokey. Yeah.
what happened to John Denver? It's like he was the same dude. He had the same talent. One minute they're screaming for him, and the next minute they're not.
It's tough, man. Jumping the shark. Yeah.
So we aren't our abilities, we aren't our talents, we aren't our looks, we aren't any of those things, but we are whole and complete in terms of who we are. And in hypnosis, we can get that viscerally. I know all the imagery to do it. But then we can be famous and good looking and be happy. And then we can be a has-been and bad looking and talentless,
still be happy
and be even happier,
Boom.
And it's not about who we're with or what our results are. We're not our results.
True that. So we usually leave people at the end of our HypnoTalks with tools that they can use. I'm going to really say this, like, for real. This was one of the most meaty HypnoTalks that we've done. There's so many good tidbits in here. I would say for you viewers out there, your tool is to rewatch this. And like, really, what you're saying is so spot on. And look, it's not anything novel, but the way that you're navigating through this and how you use this with relationships, but also using the guy that you knew who was an actor, and you wove that into jobs as well. So we've covered two huge topics here: insecurity in relationships that manifest in jealousy, and then insecurity in work and even outside type things. So the tool for you viewers, rewatch this, but even better, Janna mentioned it. 32 subscribers. I just saw we're at the magical number 33.
Hey,
33 subscribers.
Just like Jesus. Sorry.
True. He was 33 and he was 5'10". That's what I heard.
Really?
So
they figured that out.
Yeah, because see, I'm 5'11", so the running joke was, hey, at least I'm taller than Jesus. But I don't know why that was a joke. I digress, but that was in back in the days, way back in the days. So that being said, subscribe, click that subscribe button. Yes, we do HypnoTalks every Sunday, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah.
However, Janna does a lot of really cool videos throughout the week. She did tease this episode of jealousy, was teased, and it was very, very good stuff. So by subscribing down below, you get notified when we go live and when Janna posts a new video. Second, we are going to debut on Clubhouse in a couple weeks.
I was hoping you bring that up.
Yes, ma'am.
And Janna Colasso, hypnotherapist, on Instagram, because I'm going to be posting updates about Clubhouse. You can also message me. You can go to mechanicsofgrace.com and message me that way. I want the more questions that you ask, the better I can answer. I do private sessions. I do them on Zoom. You don't have to be local, but I really like to have participation in these types of conversations like now, because otherwise I'm just imagining what the questions are, and it's so much more helpful to actually work directly with you.
Yeah, I think we'll do a session just with Q&A. So however you want to submit your questions, Some people don't want their names attached to it. Other people are afraid to go and post it in the comments, but they reach out to me directly. Yeah. So,
or you
we
could
have
just
that.
put a paper sack over your head and cut out the eyes, and we could.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that. I like that. Or you could like hide behind flowers of some sort, right? Yeah. Or do something.
Yeah, a disguise.
Yes, a disguise. I can't wait for Halloween HypnoTalk. You just wait to see what disguises we dress up in.
We will have so much fun with that.
Yes. Now, one other thing, and I got to say this for sure. Yes, follow Janna on Facebook, Instagram. We will have a presence on Clubhouse where we will be able to do more free flowy type stuff, and it'll be seamless.
Yeah.
Janna knows her stuff. That's what I'm saying.
I have lived every particular nightmare that there is to live.
There are so many, and I've coined the phrase Cracker Jack box coaches out there. You remember the Cracker Jack had that cheesy little plastic toy. Now,
yeah,
it was fun concept.
Fun to dig for the toy.
Right. It was a fun concept, but the toy usually broke after, the first 20 minutes of playing with it. So there's a lot of those types of coaches. Janna is the legit truth.
Oh, Troy, that's sweet.
You are.
That's very kind.
And you have a way to connect with people from what I've seen and land your content. So with that being said, any final words, our friendly hypnotherapist?
Yeah, it's like Troy's always going, so leave them with something to do. And the something to do, would you not chase the chicken?
Angelico, stop chasing the chicken.
That's rude. Leave the chicken alone. Okay.
I love it.
Don't chase your chicken. No, that wasn't for you.
Is that the tool? Is that the tip?
No.
Oh.
You're not going to like the homework because the homework is to start the withdrawals from the heroin. In other words, stop asking for reassurance. Stop thinking about, can I trust them? Can I not trust them? Stop worrying about what to do and see if you can recognize the intensity of the, no, I don't want to do that. I want to find out now what to do. We want to start to surround that fear with awareness and compassion. And I want you to start to make a log of every 5-year interval of your life. And I would start from, for me, it's all started with Paul Bushrow in kindergarten, you guys. That was my first time I fell in love. So I would start from age 5 on, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, all the way up until I'm 60. And start to keep track of, how many times have I been in this feeling, wondering what to do, how to make them be trustworthy, whatever it is, whatever your jealousy thing is. How many days of how many weeks, how many months of how many years have you been suffering with this fucked up jealousy bullshit? And start to know that there's a bigger question than just going through someone's phone and finding out if they're trustworthy or not. And that is the question of, what if I could get rid of that entire realm of bad smelling, miasmic, smoggy crap permanently and never have to go through that again, and feel 100% secure 100% of the time, to the point where it really doesn't matter what anybody does. If they run around and act like an idiot, I'm going to be really concerned about them, but it's not my my circus, not my monkeys. And I'm going to start to attract the people that match my level of security. And the secure ones don't need to run around and get affirmation from 50,000 other people. I'm being harsh because we're talking sort of in a lot of generalities, but we want to start to notice that the goal is to feel secure. And you may not know how to pull that off yet, but you will. So it's okay to not have all the answers. but don't go barking up the wrong tree. And Angelica, that goes for you too.
Unless you used to be in the circus, then maybe you could like climb yourself up to the wrong tree. Great as always.
I said a bunch of swears, so that was my bad. So, oh well, I try to be good, sort of.
It's okay.
Not really.
It's okay. It's okay. Because there is no good, right? There is no good, bad, right, or wrong.
Right.
As you said very astutely, there's no good, bad, right, or wrong.
Yeah.
So, thank you for tuning in and viewing HypnoTalk. Again, Janna, amazing time. Very, very good stuff. And send my regards to Angelico and what was the chicken's name?
We're not going to go there. I will tell you.
Oh, wait a second. It was like Tara or something.
Parsnip, petunia, pickle feathers. Okay.
Ah, yes. Now I remember.
We had the tea chickens, which were Tinkerbell and
yes.
The one.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
She's looking at me right now. She's so
Tyrannosaurus
sweet.
Rex.
Tyrannosaurus Rex. Hi, sweetheart, sugar chicken.
All right. Love you.
Love
Peace.
you too. This was good. Bye, guys.
Bye.